Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're unpacking a really powerful source, the Autism Relationships Handbook, How to Thrive in Friendships, Dating, and Love.
Yeah, by Joe Beal and Faith G. Harper.
Right. And our goal here is to pull out the key insights on how autistic individuals can build, really fulfilling connections.
Hmm.
But here's the thing, and this is what I find really interesting. You might find the lessons here about self-understanding, communication. They kind of apply to everyone.
That's absolutely spot on. The authors, they don't just frame this as a relationship guide.
No.
No, they actually position it as a resource that could, and I quote, save the lives of autistic people.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's because they highlight this really challenging reality
Mm-hmm.
that neurodiverse individuals are, get this, 12 times more likely to be victims of abuse,
12 times.
which, as you can imagine, often leads to significant trauma, problematic attachment styles.
Mm.
It's heavy stuff.
That's a powerful way to start. It really sets the scene for just how important healthy relationships are. Like as a form of support, maybe even protection.
Exactly, support and protection.
So, okay, where do we begin? The book starts with the foundation, right? Understanding autism itself.
Right, and it clarifies something important. Autism isn't some new thing.
It just feels like we hear about it more.
Precisely. Our recognition, our definition of it, that's what's improved. They mentioned that jump in diagnostic rates, like from 1 in 88 to 1 in 68 back in 2014.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
It wasn't because suddenly there was more autism. It was
Yeah.
because we were just getting better at, well, understanding it, defining it.
So what are we getting better at recognizing then? The book talks about criteria, right? Like 9 pieces.
Yeah, variations on 9 criteria. But what's really fascinating, I think, is how it normalizes behaviors, like stimming.
Stimming, like repetitive actions,
Yeah.
hand flapping, playing with hair.
Exactly. Things like that. The book presents them as, totally harmless coping mechanisms, ways to relax, stay present.
Okay.
And then it contrasts them with what we might call socially acceptable coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
maybe drinking too much or, online aggression.
Huh. That really flips the script, doesn't it? Makes you reconsider what's normal coping.
Totally.
The source also touches on something else, how autistic individuals might struggle to see how others perceive them. It talks about bad optics.
Yeah, it's like they might see their choices as separate things, individual actions, rather than part of a whole picture, a composite that creates an impression.
Like focusing on the individual bricks instead of the whole house someone else sees.
That's a great analogy, and that difficulty gets compounded by something called neuroception.
Neuroception.
It's like those gut feelings, those instincts that warn neurotypical or allistic people of danger. They might not be present in the same way.
Ah, okay, so it's not just being socially awkward.
Not at all. It's a more fundamental difference in processing social cues, which can, unfortunately, make autistic people more vulnerable to being taken advantage of.
Right. So what does the book suggest then if someone says, but you don't seem autistic? That must happen a lot.
I imagine so. And the advice is quite interesting. Instead of getting defensive, it suggests using journalistic questions.
Like,
Like, what do you mean by that? Or could you explain what makes you say that? Just gentle questions to maybe educate the other person a little.
turn it into a learning moment. I like that. And it also frames autism not just as challenges, but with strengths, right? Superpowers.
Absolutely. It cites Dr. Laurent Montron's research from 2011 found that autistic brains often dedicate more resources to visual processing, maybe less to planning,
And that leads to
potentially 40% faster problem solving in certain areas. Plus, they're often better at picking out relevant info from, like, the noise of data we're constantly bombarded with.
11 million bits per second, the book says.
Something like that, yeah. And often really excellent memories for detail.
But understanding social stuff can still take effort. The book mentioned emotional labor.
Oh, definitely. It can take a lot of conscious effort, emotional labor to analyze facial expressions, tone, body language, things allistics might process more automatically.
Yeah.
But interestingly, that hard work can mean they actually become incredibly skilled at understanding complex social dynamics.
Okay, so that's understanding autism. But then the book pivots, right, to the relationship with yourself.
Yes, and this is huge. It argues that building healthy relationships with others, it starts right here, with your relationship with yourself.
And central to that is trauma. That might surprise some people.
It might, but the book defines trauma very clearly. an injury to the nervous system
Mm.
from horrific events, things that weren't processed properly, and they get kind of hard-coded in the brain.
Like the brain's survival shortcuts, the heuristics go wrong.
Exactly. Those mental shortcuts misfire, and you end up with a threat system that's basically always on, even when there's no danger.
And autistic people are doubly susceptible.
Yeah, because they might struggle with those larger patterns and sometimes remember the feeling of an event more strongly than the factual details. So trauma can be particularly misleading.
And this links to how we relate to others. Attachment styles.
Spot on. It brings in John Bowlby's work from the 50s.
Yeah.
Secure, dismissive avoidant, anxious preoccupied, fearful avoidant.
Or disorganized, yeah. All shaped by our early experiences.
And then there's this really interesting connection to addiction.
Addiction? How so?
The book notes autistic people can be particularly susceptible, often because of the sheer amount of trauma or confusion they might experience.
So it's not just about replacing relationships.
Anecdotally, it seems they might use substances more to, quote, make peace with our brains. It's less about filling a social void and more about managing their internal experience, which suggests maybe different paths to recovery are needed.
That's fascinating. Which leads us to values, right? Knowing what's important to you.
Yes, values clarification exercises. The book really pushes this, making sure your actions actually line up with who you think you are, with your self-image.
Distinguishing your own values from ones you just picked up from family or society?
Crucial. Because if your behavior doesn't match your core values, it starts to erode your sense of self.
Okay, values, then feelings. This can be tough for autistic folks, the book says.
It can be. Difficulty accessing or expressing emotions is common. But the advice is simple, yet profound. See emotions as just information.
Information from your body.
Exactly, guiding you, telling you maybe do more of this, less of that. The book suggests listing your common feelings and figuring out, how do I know I'm feeling this? What does anger feel like in my body?
So you can then ask for what you need. Makes sense. And that flows right into boundaries.
Oh, yes, boundaries. Super important, especially because, as the book highlights, autistic individuals are disproportionately more often taken advantage of.
So knowing your boundaries in advance is key.
Absolutely critical. Boundaries protect your body, sure, but also your beliefs, your choices, your time, your feelings, all of it.
And if someone keeps crossing them?
Big red flag. The book is blunt. That person is not a safe person to have in your life. Simple as that.
It also mentions how allistics might mistake their feelings for their reality.
Right. And while you can't control how someone else feels, the book says you can apologize if you genuinely hurt them, even if you didn't mean to. It gives a tool for setting boundaries, too, the BIFF script.
BIF, brief, informative.
Friendly, firm.
Yeah.
Like how to respond to an angry boss clearly and calmly without escalating things.
Practical. Okay, so all this self-work, values, feelings, boundaries, it leads to identity, right? Including sexuality and gender.
Major components, yes. And the book acknowledges the huge pressure to conform to stereotypes.
And there's a specific connection for autistic people.
A striking one. Autistic people are roughly 7 times more likely to be gender nonconforming, transgender, or queer than their allistic peers.
7 times. Why is that?
The book suggests gender might be experienced more flexibly by many autistics, maybe seen as another kind of social performance, like the cues might be missed if they're indirect.
Interesting. It also warns against over-sheltering autistic people.
Yes, even with the best intentions. Because sheltering can actually prevent them from learning, from developing their own agency, making their own choices. It can be a form of mistreatment, ironically.
Okay, so we've built the foundation with the self. Now let's get into relationships with other people. How does the book define a relationship?
Simply as the space between two people.
Space between. I like that.
Yeah, built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and the core value, feeling understood.
Feeling understood, that resonates. It talks about empathy too, doesn't it? Different kinds.
It does. Effective empathy. That's the instinctive, almost contagious feeling of someone else's emotion. The book says autistic people are often gifted with this.
Really?
Yeah. But then there's cognitive empathy, the conscious figuring out of what someone else is feeling based on cues. That tends to be less automatic for autistics.
So they might feel deeply but struggle to interpret the signals.
Kind of. It means autistic kids might not get the same social rewards early on, but when they do connect, the book suggests we care more than allistics do.
That's powerful. It also mentions the autistic mask, performing emotions for others.
Performing for allistics. And the danger of scorekeeping in relationships.
Yeah.
Keeping track of who did what wrong doesn't really help anyone.
Especially since allistics often misread autistic motions, right? Assuming anger when someone's calm, or the opposite.
Exactly. Which just underlines why clear, open communication is so vital. No assumptions.
So how do we build friendships then? Any practical tips?
Well, the big picture advice is make your life attractive to yourself first and find things you're passionate about. Become an expert, like Temple Grandin advised.
See, people might overlook other stuff, and you find your tribe.
Pretty much. Find people who share your interests.
And for actually connecting, the book suggests complementing personality, not bodies.
Right. Like, hey, cool t-shirt, I love the cure.
Mm.
Not commenting on appearance, which can feel weird coming from a stranger. It builds trust differently.
Makes sense. And it distinguishes between casual friends and close friends.
Yeah, and how to deepen a friendship. Find more personal common ground. Suggest doing stuff together, Want to check out the new Batman movie. Or compare Pokemon cards, whatever it is.
Okay, moving from friends to dating, what's the advice there?
Be clear about your intentions early on, like by the second or third date. Avoids a lot of hurt and miscommunication down the line.
And first dates, keep it low pressure.
Definitely. Games, bike rides, movies, anything but maybe dinner right away. Dinner can feel like a ton of pressure to just talk.
Good tip. It also gives that age difference rule of thumb.
Yeah, divide your age in half and add 7 rule.
Just a guideline, obviously, but the idea is to avoid big power imbalances.
Exactly. Especially when sex might be involved. Those imbalances can get complicated fast. And always, always ask for consent before touching.
Always. And it's very clear. Asking for sexual touch in public.
Never okay. Puts people on the spot. Uncomfortable.
Right. Which brings up a serious point. Stalking. How does the book handle that?
Very directly. Refusing to take no for an answer. Following someone. Showing up uninvited. That is stalking. Full stop.
So gray areas.
None. It's scary, unethical, illegal. Pop culture might try to romanticize persistence, but the book points out that for many neurodiverse people, no is logical. It means no.
And if someone says no but doesn't mean it?
The book says that's on them, not you. You respect the no. Always.
Okay. So relationships deepen, committed partnerships. What's the foundation?
Friendship. A relationship has to have a friendship at its core.
Makes sense. And there are rules.
Critical ones. Like never betray your partner's confidences, no physical or emotional abuse, unless it's like pre-agreed consensual BDSM, which is different.
Right. And taking responsibility for your own stuff, your own fears.
Yes. Don't dump your fears onto your partner, own your stuff.
What about intimacy? Sex?
The book points out it's not instinctual, not universal, and yeah, it can be awkward to talk about.
So how do you navigate that?
It suggests things like sensate touch exercises with clear ground rules, starting with just healing touch, maybe a hand massage, face caress.
Gentle stuff.
Yeah, focused on loving intent, then maybe moving towards more erotic exploration, but always communicating what feels good. It even notes that for some autistic people, firmer touch might be better than light touch, which can be overwhelming. But again, it's all about communication and experimentation.
Okay, communication is key, but conflict happens, right? How do you tell healthy disagreement from abuse, especially for autistic folks?
This is vital. The book gives that terrifying statistic again. 80% of autistic people will suffer sexual violence or abuse in our lifetime.
80%, often by someone they know.
Exactly. And it dives deep into coercive control.
Which isn't physical.
Right. It's non-physical abuse. Mind games, putting you down constantly, isolating you, intimidation, constantly changing the rules so you never know where you stand.
Designed to hold someone hostage emotionally.
Precisely. Emotional terrorism. It can absolutely lead to PTSD.
And this type of control actually increased when physical violence became less socially acceptable.
Yeah, it's alarming. Abusers just found other ways to dominate. And often, the book notes, it's rooted in gender-based privilege.
How does it work? How do controllers operate?
Strategically. They cut off your support systems, friends, family. They exploit your vulnerabilities. Then they swoop in, maybe with love bombing, intense affection early on to make you feel indebted, like they're your rescuer.
Creating that dependency.
And it's important to remember, while autistic people might struggle with cognitive empathy, they're not sociopaths. That's often neurophobia talking. Once they connect, they can care incredibly deeply.
So what are the warning signs, the signs of coercive control?
The book lists clear ones. Limiting your contact with others, demanding passwords, tracking where you go, threatening you or people you care about.
And other red flags. Things a partner might do.
Humiliating you, demeaning you, constantly criticizing, telling you no one else would ever want you, maybe even using the healthcare system against you, like trying to get you misdiagnosed or institutionalized. Really nasty stuff.
That's heavy, but the book balances it, right? With positive signs, green flags.
Yes, thankfully. Green flags are crucial. Like, does your partner help you feel safe? Truly safe to be yourself.
Do they respect your answers, even if they don't like them?
Exactly. Do they ask questions because they genuinely want to understand your perspective? Do they listen without jumping in with unwanted advice?
Do they accept your emotions, not try to argue you out of them?
All of those. Those are signs of a healthy, supportive dynamic.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this handbook seems like a really comprehensive roadmap.
It really is. For building fulfilling relationships, starting with yourself, learning to communicate effectively, and crucially, learning to spot and avoid those unhealthy, dangerous patterns.
And it all comes down to
Creating and agreeing on, quote, a set of mutually accepted and respected guidelines, rules of engagement that work for both people, so everyone feels happy and can grow.
yeah, relationships as a deeply two-way street, both people learning, growing, even through the tough stuff, the conflicts. It really feels like it's about empowering you, the listener, to figure out what happiness and fulfillment actually look like in your connections.
Absolutely.
So, the final thought for you listening. What does this all mean for you? Maybe think about how understanding these communication nuances, especially in neurodiverse interactions, could change your everyday conversations, not just the romantic ones. What if every connection, every interaction was a chance for deeper understanding, not just of others, but maybe of yourself too?